Hi, I'm Tom Stephenson and welcome to Construction Project Management Principles. I'm a professor of construction management and I've set up this channel to help provide information and education in the construction sector. We need it, and there's a lot of problems in the construction industry, and in the next few videos I'm going to kind of hone in and focus in on a bunch of them, but I thought today might be a good chance to sort of give a high-level view of some problems and where some work has been done and is being done to change some of those principles and practices. And I'm going to refer to lean construction methodology in that. So we really want to look at some of the low-hanging fruit that I would refer to in lean world. We would refer to it as the 20-80 rule. You know, what things or few things could we fix that gives us a high return on investment on that effort? Pareto's principle refers to 20-80. So is there like 1 hour I can spend that saves me 4 hours? And that can be very helpful, that kind of thinking, because it kind of helps you to narrow down which things you should focus in on. Because believe me, there's a lot of things in the construction sector that we can improve upon. Projects typically are over budget, they're running late, their quality standards could be higher, they don't necessarily give us the highest value, meaning if you're the client or the customer, at the end of the project, very often you're not completely satisfied with what's being delivered. And there's a lot of historical reasons that that comes into play, and the construction industry has not been the quickest industry to change. Although, with that said, I think we're on the threshold of dramatic change. I think that with the advances in technology, the requirements that clients are requiring and asking for, with the higher levels of complexity that are now involved in construction compared to 40, 50 years ago, it's really something that we have to do. And we're moving in the right direction, but I think we're moving a bit too slowly. I think the ones that are moving fast, and there's a number of construction companies I've had the good fortune of working with and consulting with, I think they will do very, very well. But ones that are kind of resistant to change, I think they're going to be having problems like throughout history when change has occurred. So let's take a little bit of a look here. All right, so I'm starting off with lean. What is lean construction? I've taken these points from the LCI, Lean Construction Institute Canada website. They had a nice little page on this that I thought was pretty well defining things. And, you know, it says lean is a new way to define, design, and build. Now, we can also say new way. That lean really started in the early 1990s. So that's kind of already, 33 years. So how new you want to say, but really it took a while to get traction, and it's still taking a while to get traction. Traditional construction methodology and thoughts, and that typically ties to the management side of things, critical path, reporting schedules on a monthly basis. Some of the problems with critical path is it's rear window, meaning that a lot of times by the time you get the schedule updated and you see the impact it's had on the whole project, a lot of time has passed. And by the time you fix it, more time has passed. And you probably resolved a lot of the things on site, but not to the best optimization for the project. Critical path, now I'm a little bit different on my thinking than a lot of lean practitioners. I do think at the high level, you do need to have a well-developed critical path, and the more collaboration that took place in that, the better. Because you really have to establish milestone dates. Beyond that, then I think there's a lot of value in other systems, and lean construction has pulled out a number of systems, has totally in-house developed systems separate from the manufacturing sector where lean got its roots. Toyota production system would probably be the poster child of lean manufacturing, and really developed out of the work of Deming and Duran and some super Japanese managers over many, many decades. and has come to be what it is. And there's been dramatic improvements in productivity and production in the manufacturing sector, whereas construction really hasn't improved that much productivity-wise over the last 50, 60 years. There's data going back to 1960 that was published in The Economist not that long ago. That kind of shows construction really hasn't improved much in productivity at all. While manufacturing has improved, I think it was around 4%, and the overall economy around 3%, and agriculture is through the roof in that particular area, how much they've improved. So we've been a laggard, and there's a lot of justifiable reasons. We're very fragmented. Fragmented just means we've got a lot of separate entities. We're coming together to work on a project because we're project-based. And we're dealing with things like unique site conditions, regulatory authorities, weather conditions. We have contract systems that are traditionally very much optimized for lump sum contracts. But the problem is the level of complexity in construction has accelerated as well. We have things, building automation systems, advanced commissioning that we have to do on our buildings and structures, much more tight envelopes, insulating requirements, much more weeds in the regulatory authorities, very stretched architectural resources that have been making it very, very difficult to advance in a lot of ways. So we have to look for ways that can help us to improve, and it's going to be multifaceted. It's going to be on a lot of different levels. It's not one thing and we're good. But I also think if you're in this industry or thinking about getting into this industry, it's kind of a good thing. I always say that, right, when I'm talking to students. I had a group of international students this past week, and so, very successful in their own countries and coming to Canada, starting a new life and new career, but architectural backgrounds, engineering backgrounds, mechanical backgrounds. And I always put it, it's great. What was it like in your country? It's not that much different when it comes to productivity and innovation implementation here. We have a lot of sort of roadblocks and restrictions that have taken place. But you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than others. And in our industry, there is a lot of waste. Depending what you read, what research you look at, and depending how you want to categorize waste, because in lean we look at it in different ways, it's somewhere between 30 and 60%, depending on how it's categorized. So that just means there's a lot, and that's great. You're in this industry now. You just have to help to make it improve beyond that. So, if your company is operating at 27% waste and you've dropped it from being 30% wasteful, that's an improvement. That's going to put you in a more competitive position. But you have to know that everybody else is improving too, right? Or at least the ones that are still going to be in the marketplace in the next 10 years, they will continuously improve. A tenet of lean, we want to continuously improve. Those that don't, they'll be left behind because they won't be competitive. Their pricing will be out of touch. They won't be as profitable. Clients won't seek them out. So this is a very important aspect to think about because, as I said, prior to COVID, most projects, especially large projects, are over budget, over time, and don't necessarily deliver on the value to the clients that they were seeking. I'm not saying that that every construction company is losing money, but I am saying that clients, what they thought they were going to pay for something ends up being a lot more. And that's causing some ripple effects. So if you're a client, on the client side, this is important too, because I think a lot of this can be driven from the client side because it can be helpful if you are pushing for certain contract models that make it better for collaboration to take place. And these are models like construction management, design, build, and of course the one that really fits lean really well, integrated project delivery, where we have a sharing of a profit pool and we have a lot of collaboration and we have key major contractors involved in the design process, so the design fits the value proposition of what the client wants. So these statements that I've got here, lean construction is a new way to define, as I said, not necessarily new, and it can fit with any project delivery model. It's just the breadth of what you can do is much more substantial if you've got key people involved in the design process, rather than designed, bid, and now you're building and it's like, oh, we could do this, we could do that. Why wasn't this done this way? Oh, this would have saved so much time and effort. You already have those things vetted in the design process. So as I said, it is from the key background of lean is derived from manufacturing. Now, control is redefined from monitoring results to making things happen. So that's that aspect that I'm talking about. Critical path, high level, great, but how do we get it into the weeds? And we use that last planner system, and there's other systems that we can also use, TAC planning, Scrum, that can be integrated with lean principles. Jason Schroeder, you could check out on LinkedIn, does a lot, and on YouTube a lot in the way of sort of the TAC system. He runs a training company called Elevate. So on the TAC side of things, he's got a lot of great information out there. It's kind of, TAC is very much, and I can't really explain it all here, but it's very much like what we did with linear and line of balance scheduling in trying to have smaller batch sizes and repetition and building on that repetition through the project. But repetition can be defined in different ways with TAC planning and really zoning of particular areas. So what we want to do is, from the control perspective, in very simple terms, as I said, this is going to take a number of videos to kind of get out there. We want to have more real-time information. We want to, in advance, be less reactive and more proactive. We want to remove roadblocks. We want to free flow from bottlenecks that may occur in advance, so that by the time we get to do the work, we have a high confidence that we're going to be able to do it on that time, as opposed to reacting that somebody doesn't show on the day of. We have to build stronger commitments with our resources. Lean is not easy. Lean requires a lot of upfront collaboration, involvement, and commitments, and picking the right subs and the right vendors. And it many times will mean not necessarily going with the lowest price at the detriment at the overall project, right? So that's the other thing. Pre-qualification means a little bit different thing in that process, meaning that we got to make sure that the people that, if we're going to pre-qualify, they are committed to these lean principles. There's going to be different methodologies regarding meeting and collaborative efforts that take place, and we need that participation. Performance is maximizing value, minimizing waste at the project level. There's 8 areas of waste in lean construction. They usually spell the term downtime. I've done other videos on waste, the 8 areas of waste. You can check my playlist. 8 areas of waste include defects, which is rework, overproduction, making more of something than you need to in simple terms, waiting, workers waiting for work waiting for workers. It's a big one, right? Where you've got something's ready and now somebody doesn't show up for 3 weeks. That's a cost. That's a waste. Everything's sitting there. You've got a management team on this project, right? N, non-utilized talent. You've got to use the talents of the people on your team and the talents of the trade partners. I'm using the word trade partners there instead of subcontractor because that's the idea. We're going to optimize for the project, right? Getting that kind of collaboration going. T is for transportation. We don't want to deliver things to the site earlier than we need them, but at the same time we want to make sure they're going to be there when we do need them. So lean just in time is in the manufacturing world, right? Last responsible moment in lean construction makes more sense only because just in time people get the wrong idea of it, and it'll put off a lot of construction people. They'll say, there's no way. You're not getting it coming off the truck going into the wall of bricks, right? You're going to have it 3-4 days ahead. Okay, 3-4 days ahead, if that makes sense, that's good. 3-4 months ahead, that probably doesn't make sense unless it's a pandemic and you're going to rent some space because you don't think you're going to get it, right? That would be the last responsible moment. But you don't want it on the site that it's taking up space that you can't now move around. If you ever painted a house with furniture in it, you know what I'm talking about, right? It can't get anything done. You're moving furniture, you're covering. It takes a lot more time. If you're painting in an empty room, it's a joy. It's not difficult to do. So maximizing value, minimizing waste. So we said T is for transportation, I is for inventory, M is for motion. So inventory, we want to have as few things on site. We don't want to move them. So that ties into the transportation, getting it to where we need it. And motion is going back and forth and not, you can just watch steps. You can just watch people. A lot there. And E is extra production, extra steps. If you've got extra steps in something, that is wasting time. So you can do flow charts. You can do what we call value stream mapping to map out all the steps to make something. And so that's important to understand those elements. These are just little small things. One of these sentences means like a lot of things that expands out that we need to adjust and improve upon our systems. Now, some people in construction that are very successful and they don't even really know what lean is, right? But they're doing a lot of lean things, and that's helping them to be more successful, right? So there might be a site super that you could bring in and you ask them about lean construction. They don't know what you're talking about. But if you actually look at what they're doing, they're practicing a lot of principles that they came across and learned through their own experiences and are applying on a day-to-day basis. So project delivery, this is very, as opposed to the simultaneous design of the facility and its production process or concurrent engineering. So you are designing it, not just for the functional use of it, but you're also designing it for constructability, for supply chain issues, right? For cost. So all of those things are happening simultaneously. There's a whole bunch of elements that go into that design process, things like set-based design, trying to come up with multiple options before you narrow them down so that you end up with the best option. It's a lot of opportunities for the improvements there. The greatest opportunity to save money in construction is before you start. So the earlier you are in the process, there's more opportunities to save because there's more inputs coming in from knowledgeable people in their individual sectors. The next point here is value. And value is customer designed, created throughout the life of the project. True lean, you got clients that they own and they operate the facility when you're done, right? So traditionally, we've got an owner that's expected to completely define the requirements at the outset. The other thing is thinking about how flexible this design will be in the future. A lot of projects take multiple years to complete. So kind of thinking about possibilities for change of use, etc., in those facilities can be important as well. So we're also trying from the customer point of view to think about the long-term value for the client. That's where that would fit, where it would be appropriate, right? In some cases, if it's a developer, they probably are not going to care about that long-term use because they've sold it and they're gone and that sort of thing. But institutional use, for sure, they're going to care. Apartment use, for sure, they're going to care because that means how expensive is it for them to change. Coordinating action through pulling and continuous flow. All right, so you'll hear the term pull planning. Problem on construction, traditional, we push things. So like I said with the sites, the schedule says this material should come on this date. So it's coming, whether we're ready for it or not, because of something else that may have happened. That just causes problems. That just causes a backlog of things. And so people have a lot of difficulty visualizing. Well, what do you mean the difference between pull and push? I think the easiest way to get that is to think about your cell phone and to think about, you start up the cell phone and then basically there's something that's there, right? That's being pushed to my cell phone, right? A message is being pushed to my cell phone. When you have those notifications pop up, that's being pushed, right? It's not that you want it at that moment. It's there and it's distracting you. So think you're working, if I'm teaching and the thing vibrates in my pocket, it's a distraction for me. If I'm on a site and stuff comes and I'm not ready for it, it's a distraction. It's a problem. We may have to move it 3 or 4 times. So push is when you've got those things arriving, not necessarily when you need it. Pull is, I've got to check my messages now. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to check my messages and I can see it. I need to check that now, so I'm pulling it towards me. Push is, it's telling me whether I want to know or not. I'm in the middle of an important meeting. I don't care. Here it is, right? So pull actually means a lot more than that when we're scheduling. It fits into the pull planning session, which is a collaborative process where we have trades together in what we call a big room, and we work out from the end of a milestone back to the upcoming section of work, how those activities are going to sequence and coordinate it. So the trades are right there. Last planner is like the 4 persons to say, I need to be in this area, but I need this done and this done. What are their conditions of satisfaction for them to start? And I can't have any stuff in this particular area. And then there's a back and forth. There can be a negotiation that takes place, but that coordination gets vetted with the right inputs. If somebody's not there and it's just a site super saying, here's the schedule, do it, right? Just pushing it on to them, there's not been that collaboration. And a lot of times it's not going to make a lot of sense. It's going to cause ripple effects because it's not going to work and it's going to delay things. So that's a big one to really grasp, and then to really grasp how do we build systems around making that collaboration happen more organically, not being forced, organically, and creating the right culture that people begin to see, you know what, this helps me and it helps the project. So we're optimizing for the project, not the individuals. Decentralizing decision making. That means this means that everybody has the information that they need, right? It's not like hiding. I'm going to filter out in this trade. I just want them to know what they're supposed to do. I don't want them to know what anybody else is doing. And my real schedule is a secret. Nobody knows. That's very traditional thinking. And that's a problem. We need them to know that you're being transparent and that they're being transparent with you. And we've got to build that kind of culture and set of accountabilities so that happens. And that takes time. And that is very effortful, but it is an excellent management practice to develop. It's an excellent book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni, and you can kind of see when things fall down in these processes. I've done a book review on one of my YouTube videos on that you could sort of get a good sense of some of the things that requires. So lean design and construction is a production management-based project delivery system, emphasizing the reliable and speedy delivery of value. It challenges the generally accepted belief that there is always a trade-off between time, cost, quality, and safety. So getting back to where I started, where projects are over time, they're over budget, there's quality and safety issues, you design this from the beginning with the major people that are involved in the project. If something is not seeming like it's possible, that will be challenged at those points in time. The challenge for owners out there is you want to know the lump sum exactly before you start the project, and that's why you want a lump sum contract. But at the end of the day, you haven't been getting it because there's a lot of change orders and claims and adversarial relationships and lawsuits and litigation that goes on in these construction projects. So you can say that's why you need that, but you haven't been getting it. And so we're looking for other ways. We're challenging traditional methods to make improvements. We need to improve in our industry, and let's go out and get there. All right, and this is the first of a series that I plan to do in this particular area. So I'm Tom Stephenson. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check my playlist. There's a lot of, if you're new to construction, there's a lot of material there. If you're in construction a long time, but you never really got into some formal training on different aspects and you're looking to patch and fill some holes, there's a lot of more advanced stuff there as well. So don't forget to click subscribe, click notifications, and join me on this journey. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.